they were handwritten horoscopes. Wherein the first thing that would be mentioned is the Panchanga of the day of the birth, and including the time of the birth. You can see, usually Panchanga contains 5 elements. Everybody would know this. So even these 5 elements are important before we start to examine the yogas in the horoscope or the placement of the planets in the horoscope. So what I would encourage everyone is, even in the Jagannath Hora, you would have the Panchanga mentioned uh, in the horoscope. If you can see the natal chart details that we enter right now on any of the chart making software that we right now use, either on the mobile or on the desktop, you would have the Panchanga of it, of the date and the time that we're providing for the particular location. In case of Jagannath Hora that we are using, it also contains this information. You have the first thing is, the Tithi, then is the Vara, then is the Nakshatra, okay, then is the Yoga, and then is the Karana. Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana. These are the 5 elements that would be used, or the 5 limbs of the Panchanga that we would usually use when we record any event. And just in case there is a muhurta happening, so that we do a auspicious date and time to perform certain religious activities like marriage or any ceremony that we have to conduct. A Panchanga is always important. What most of the experienced astrologers would think is, who are on the right path, is that the base energy of any planet or the whole chart itself will be drawn from these 5 elements. So the 5 elements are Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana. So there is a small sloka we usually come across when we hear about the Panchanga, that is Tithischa Shriyamapnoti Varat Ayushya Vardhanam Nakshatrat Harate Papam Yogat Roga Nivaranam Karanat Karya Siddhisya Panchangam Phalamuttamam. This is what you can loosely translate this is, with the Tithi of the birth, okay, you can look at the fame and the wealth. So how much wealth a person is gonna get will depend on the Tithi. Okay, the fame also will depend on the Tithi. Tithi is actually the angle between the sun and the moon. So sun and the moon are together. We call it Amavasya, or a new moon day, wherein there's no light from the moon. And when the sun and moon are exactly opposite to each other at 180 degrees, that's when you have a full moon day. So the angle that the moon makes in transit with the sun, while both the planets are moving, even the sun is also moving and the moon is also moving. So when these planets are making an angle to each other, that's when we call it a change in a Tithi or a running Tithi. So that means the relationships that the moon and the sun are forming between each other is going to tell you what Tithi it is. Okay. And then we have the Paksha. That means is it a waxing moon or a waning moon? Even that is also in the Tithi thing, because we would say the Krishna Paksha Tithi and the Sukla Paksha Tithi. So these things are going to tell you, or the base framework that happens for the horoscope or the chart that we would see, the base thing happens with the Tithi. So I'm not saying, don't get confused with the thing that a person born on a particular Tithi is only going to be rich or famous. No, it's not like that. Depending on the Tithi that we have, there are a certain combinations that can help the Tithi to make the person rise to fame and also get some wealth. we will get to understand them when we are trying to look at the yogas. So what happens is we are going to use all of these elements of the Panchanga in tandem when we are looking at the horoscope. So these both things will run parallel to each other. Why I'm saying this is, let's suppose you have an exalted planet that is supposed to give you a huge riches, is what you would think when you look at the chart. I mean, I'm just talking right now about the D1 chart. Okay. So what people usually think is when this second lord gets exalted, usually it's a good indication that the person is going to get richer. However, most of the times this may not hold true because of several reasons. Those reasons would lie in the Tithi, the Vara, the Nakshatra, the Yoga, or the Karana, and how they would be linked to the results is what we would start with, and then we will jump into nakshatras because those are the most powerful. We will get to talk about each of them, and this course is not going to be over very soon. I mean, don't be of the expectation that I would learn for about 5 classes, and after the sixth class, I would be ready to go and do a prediction. No, it wouldn't happen like that. It would take at least a year's time for people to understand the base energies of what nakshatras are, and we are not even touching planets by then. So once we finish off nakshatras, that's when we understand what each planet would be doing, and then we have what each planet would do in each rasi, and then what each planet would do when it's in combination with another planet, then what each planet would do when it is being aspected by different planets. So all this would anyway take between 2 to 3 years, and for you to develop some expertise, I'm not saying you do not know anything and I'm trying to teach a lot right now. No, that's not the point. What I'm trying to give you is how to look at and how to understand the different phalitas, because a lot of you must have already been into astrology for quite long, and you would always be scratching your heads up why this yoga is not working, or how come this person is so wealthy when all his planets are bad, or how come this planet this guy is so rich when all his planets are so bad. These things keep cropping up in your brains. I'm trying to give you an understanding of what I have seen all these days, and that's the objective of the whole course. So don't jump guns, or don't try to be in a hurry to to learn very few things and try to make predictions. For yes, for sure you need to make predictions, but be a little patient to understand what each of these things do. That's why I'm saying let's start from Panchanga. So Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana. Unless you have questions, I would appreciate if you can keep yourself on mute, please. Okay, I've put everybody on mute just in case anybody has a question. They can unmute themselves and ask. Okay, so we have the Tithi, the Vara, the Nakshatra, the Yoga, and the Karana. So the Vara is going to help in a different way. The Nakshatra is going to help in a different way. The Yoga is going to help in a different way. And the Karana is going to help in a different way. So the Tithi is going to give you fame and the wealth. The Vara is going to help you on this physical strength of the person. So how curious the person is, how anxious the person is, just in case we fall sick, or we have some ailment that comes up, how the person is going to deal with the ailment. Certain people might get cancer and still be very joyful, and be playful, rather than thinking very bad about what they have got on the health. So you can see such people, and there can be some people who would just be hurt a little bit on the finger and they would cry a lot in pain. So would how this guy would look like on the health side, or the person's ability to get out of a disease or feel stronger despite the fact that even he has some ill health. So that would be governed by the Vara. Okay. And then you have the Nakshatra and the Yoga. These are the longest things that we would usually deal with in astrology. or the longest time that we would take to understand would be nakshatra and the yoga. So most of the people here in the class must have already known a few, already must be knowing a few yogas. Wherein nakshatras, I would think few people from the Telugu classes already have the understanding of how nakshatras can be influential. Now, with the other students that we have in the class, they would also understand, how powerful the nakshatras can be in altering the yogas, and similarly, how the yogas can be helpful in altering the nakshatras. I mean, they go in tandem. So most of the times, the nakshatra wins, and very, very rarely you get to see a yoga winning over the nakshatra. So the nakshatras are the most powerful. And then you have the yoga that, as I said, it can remove ill health. The nakshatra can remove sins. These are actually very profound statements. So just not think a nakshatra is going to remove a sin that you have committed in the past. No, it doesn't mean that. Neither the yoga can remove an ill health. No, it doesn't. Both of these statements are actually very profound, and they are not the straight translations that I have mentioned here. However, these two things, the yoga and the nakshatra, are going to alter the horoscope to a very, very large extent, and that we would get to learn as we progress in the course. And the final one is the Karana. So, how the profession would be of a person, how the occupation is of a person, you can look at it from the Karana. The first baseline of the occupation or the employment or the business that he would do, the base energy comes from the Karana. So the Karana is a very important thing when you're trying to understand what the occupation is of a person. Do not ignore this Karana when you're trying to understand about the career of the person. Well, as we all know, there are five things in this world, like the five limbs of the Panchanga, the five elements. So the five elements in the Sanskrit are Prithvi, Prithivir, Apas, Tejo, Vayur, Akashaha. These are the five elements. So these are from the down to up. So we have Prithvi at the bottom, then we have Apaha, then we have Tejas, then we have Vayu, and then we have Akasha. So these are the five elements. I mean, most of the people of Indian origin would have an understanding of what the five elements are. So these five elements are actually intertwined into the Panchanga's tattvas. So when the tattva of the Akasha is there, it would denote Jupiter. I'll explain each of the tattva and then the planet. So you have the Akasha tattva. For example, for anything to exist in this world, first thing that you need is space. You need a solid space wherein, let us suppose, you have a cot that you have bought for yourself. You've got a bed for your home, and you don't have space. How do you place your bed there? So for the planets to exist, for even the sun to exist in the world, there has to be Jupiter. So the tattva of the Jupiter is creating space. Okay, we will use all of these the signification that we call of the planets everywhere in the horoscopes. Like Jupiter is for space. So from now on, when you look at Jupiter, you have to see the space has to come into your mind. That Jupiter occupies a lot of space. So Jupiter means space. So Jupiter creates the space for a proper working of a system. Let's suppose, I mean, even the astronomy people have also agreed that unless there is Jupiter in the solar system, there would be lots of asteroids or the rogue planets that roam around, in the solar system. They all might come and hit the Earth. As Jupiter is rightly placed at the right place, it is providing enough space for the Earth and the other planets for them to revolve around the sun. And we have the day and the night, and then we have the seasons, and everything is in order. So unless there's Jupiter in place, you cannot have the whole system working. So Jupiter rules the Akasha Tattva, the ether, the space, or the atmosphere. So anything that has to do with the atmosphere of a problem, that means there is a Jupiter problem there. So you can use each of these significations differently. Okay, let's suppose somebody reports you a problem of an atmosphere, and I'm not very happy with the atmosphere that I have around me. It means that it's a Jupiter problem. You have to give him a Jupiter solution. You can even use these significations without even looking at the horoscope. Or when he describes the problem, you may conclude it that yes, when I look at his chart, we have a problem that's coming up for Jupiter. So I need to look at how the Jupiter is in the chart. That's what you should be arriving to. Then we have the Vayu. The next element is the Vayu. After you have Akasha, or the space element, if nothing is there, let's suppose you have a glass, and it's an empty glass. So even the empty glass has wind in it, or the air in it. That everybody would agree. So the next element that we have is the air or the wind. So wind is the most powerful thing that exists on this planet, which has energy. Okay. In case of energy, wind is the only thing that has energy. You have a question, sir? Somebody has unmuted himself. I'm muting you up unless you have a question. Okay. So wind or the air is the most powerful thing on the planet. Let's suppose you have we would typically look at cyclones that we have across. And what would most people be afraid of is not about the quantity or the rainfall in millimeters or the inches. Most of the people would be worried about the wind speed that you would have when a cyclone occurs, because the wind speed, the higher the wind speed is, the greater can be the damage. It can uproot the trees, even the buildings and everything. There will be a lot of devastation if you have, uh, you know, uh, if you have huge wind coming across when the cyclone is active. So to keep in mind, what is most powerful is the wind. So on the Akasha part, when the Jupiter is ruling, you have the yoga working. When you have the wind or the Vayu working, you have the Saturn and Rahu working, and you have the nakshatra working. So the most important part is the nakshatra that is going to drive how powerful your horoscope can be, or how weak the horoscope can be. So you may have great combinations, but when your nakshatras are not very strong enough in delivering the results, then you may have bad results. Or when you have even a very ordinary yogas, but your nakshatras are very good, then you may get great results. Okay. So what I mean to say is nakshatra would not mean just the moon's nakshatra. I'm talking about the nakshatra of all the 9 planets, the ascendant, and sometimes even the smaller planets like the Mandi, the Gulika, or any other thing that you would look at in the horoscope, or any cusp for that matter. So even the second house cusp, where does it fall? Or the seventh house cusp, where does it fall? Would actually would mean a lot in case of ascertaining how much rich the person can be, or how good the relationships of the person can be. Okay, in terms of the second house and the seventh house, because the second house rules with the money, whereas the seventh house rules with the relationships. Great. So now we have the Tejo, that's the fire. So these are all in the descending order. You have the Akasha or the space at the first, and then you have the Vayu, then the Tejo, then the Apas, and then the Prithvi. So the weakest of all the things is Prithvi, okay, in delivering a result, I'm saying. Okay, these are all based on how powerful a result can be. And yoga and nakshatras can be replaced. Okay, and most of the times what we would see is the nakshatra is largely powerful than the yoga, because most of the yogas are dependent on nakshatras. How powerful the nakshatra is, that powerful would be the yoga. Okay, we will get to know in detail when we will look at the examples, or when we get to look at nakshatras in detail. Then we have the tejo, the dharma. Okay, the tejo or the fire. is sun and is ruled by the sun and the Mars, because everybody knows that the sun and the Mars are the fire planets. You have the Vara ruled by it. So the, as I said earlier, the Vara is going to help you on the physical strength of the person. Let's suppose you have a person who's keeping very good health. However, let's suppose he has to lift up a bag. He's going to go to a railway station and he needs to pick his bag up. And assuming if he has the Vara planet, because Vara is a fire planet. So fire, when it gets into water, the fire is put off. So, or the fire is extinguished. So if the fire has to survive, it has to be away from water. So if the Vara planet, let's suppose you have from Sunday to Saturday are the weak planets. So Sunday is ruled by Sun, Monday is Moon, ruled by Moon, Tuesday is ruled by Mars, and so on till the Saturn is ruling this Saturday. And how would we get to know what the Vara is? We have this weekday that's given in the software. You can see this is a Vedic weekday. That would mean any day that starts from the sunrise till the next day's sunrise is a Vedic day. So the day does not change at midnight, 12 o'clock, but it would change the next day morning. That's at the sunrise. So from sunrise to the next sunrise is counted as a day in Vedic system. Then we have, so when we look at that the Vara planet or the fire planet that we usually call the Vara. So the Vara planet, when it falls in a watery sign, so what the watery signs are, I'm assuming a few of you would have already been in astrology, so I'm going a little faster than what it should be, just in case you do not know what the watery signs are. These are simple things. When you even just do a Google search or a chat GPT, you would be easily able to find out what the watery signs are. The watery signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. These are watery signs. So when the Vara planet falls in a watery sign, the person is bereft of good physical strength, or he wouldn't be able to lift up huge weights. Or in comparison, when you see a person who has got up his Vara planet in a fiery sign like the Aries or the Leo or the Sagittarius, would be easily able to lift up weights than a person who's got his Vara planet in the watery signs. Besides this, also use the Lagna always, as I would say. Most of my Telugu students would know it. Without using a Lagna, please don't do the prediction. So how weak the person could be is if the planet is in a watery sign and also is in a Dusthana from the Lagna or the ascendant. Dusthana means it's a 6, 8, 12 position from the Lagna. So the planet can be in 6, 8, 12, and then it could be in a watery sign. Then you have lower physical strength, or the body is more prone to injuries or illnesses or infections rather. Okay, so the person can get weaker easily, or he may face huge fatigue and would always be hungry. So he would eat a meal, and then maybe after 3 to 4 hours he would still feel a lot of fatigue and he would be hungry. So that can also mean that. And then we have, so the simplest of all these 5 elements is the Vara. So I've given you the understanding of what Vara is just now. It's a very simple rule. The fire should be away from the water. So the Vara is a fire planet. And then we have the Apaha, the water. The water is the Tithi. So this is also very important when we are trying to make marriage, alliances, and we try to cross-check whether this horoscope matches the other, or is there a problem with this person on the relationships? Why does he quarrel with everyone that he gets to meet? You must be seeing a few people who would be very quarrelsome and would pick up fights with anyone. So such people, the base energy of the Tithi, which is water, or we call usually the water boy, whoever our Sanjay Rath's students would call this a water boy. So the water boy, when he's placed in a fire sign, and very strong. In that cases, you would see that the person would pick up fights easily and is not emotionally connected. So for example, if you want to maintain a good relationship, their relationships exist because of compromises. If you're trying to rule over the relationship, then the relationship is obviously going to break. This is common for any relationship. It can be a wife and husband, the brothers and sisters, or for that matter, any professional relationship. As long as we are trying to compromise with each other, a better relationship exists in place, and there is natural love. So the love element is with the water, that's ruled by watery signs and the Tithi planet. So even on the Tithi, in case of Tithi as well, you would see, you can see here Tithi, Sukla, Trayodasi, and there is a planet in brackets. So this planet is the Tithi planet. Okay, having this planet in fire signs would make the person quarrelsome in general. Okay. These are very generic things because a person, as he ages, when he has different yogas from the nakshatra and the yoga part, this can sometimes be overruled. Okay, these are base energies. So, but the Tithi is very weak on the next section. You can see that. So the Tithi Lord, so even if he falls in a fire sign, may not, all the 100 out of 100 times you get to see a Tithi planet in a fire sign, the person may not be quarrelsome. He may actually develop diplomacy as he ages, and he may transform. However, at the youth or the adolescence, this guy must have definitely quarreled with a lot of persons, and he's not able to maintain relationships. That much you can be sure of. Okay. And then we have lastly the Karana. The Karana is ruled by the Prithvi element. So Karana, as I said, is mostly for the occupation or the profession. Which side of the profession, or how would your profession be? What would your interests be? Is what the Karana would say. And as we all know, there are trikonas we call. Mm, or the planet, the trines that we would usually call dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So we have the four trine thing, of which you can see the planet Mercury gets directional strength in the first house. So just in case you do not know what directional strength is, these are also very simple things. What directional strength would mean is the planet is determined to do something, and it knows what to do in case there is a problem there is a problem with the significations of itself, or in other terms, if there is a problem in the profession, and if there is Mercury in the lagna, the person is very aware of what he is doing, what problems he's gonna get, how to handle these situations in the profession. So that's what the directional strength could mean in simple terms. There can be hundreds of meanings for directional strengths, but this is one thing which you can apply straight away and find answers to it. So it may so happen that a person is not doing very well in profession, and he has the every understanding of how to improve his profession, provided he has a Mercury in the lagna. So that's what directional strength would mean. And then you have the moon and the Venus. When you have these planets in the fourth house, or one of them in the fourth house, then also you have a good control over the relationships, and you can maintain very good diplomacy. Okay, so in the moksha trikona, the moon and the Venus are gonna help, and you have directional strength in the fourth house. Okay, that's the water. And then you have the fire. You have the fiery planets, both Sun and Mars. Most of you know Mars will be exalted in the 10th house. That's the usual Capricorn that you have. And Sun and Mars both have directional strength in the 10th house, because 10th house is a place where you need energy. You need, let's suppose you do an occupation, you have to have energy. That's when you can be in a profession. Otherwise, you would be falling ill and you're sick. Okay. So for a person to be energetic, you need the fire element that we have talked about. So on the profession side, besides looking at what the Karana is doing, even if the Karana is very, very good, you don't have the fire element properly placed, you should say that no, the profession is not very good due to ill health or not having enough physical capability of the person to walk up to the office and perform his duty. Okay, there can be exceptions like I don't remember the person's name, Stephen Hawking. So this man could not move. He was in a wheelchair continuously, but he was a genius and doing a lot of job. So it means that his fire thing is absent, while his Prithvi thing is very, very good, or the earth is very good and his fire is absent. Okay, I'm trying to give you people ideas of how to look at these things, so that you would paint a picture for yourself and start looking at things a little differently than what you were looking at a few days ago. That's the objective. I want to just give it a whirl and leave you for tonight, so that you go back and feel fresh and start to look at things very differently. And then you have the Vayu, as I said. Okay, so the simplest way of understanding the horoscopes are, or the horoscopy rather is, we call the planets in Sanskrit as graha, right? Graha means uh, that does grahana, or that seeks something. So graha means that seeks something. So what it would seek is, or what it would gain from, is the nakshatra in which it is placed. So a graha by itself cannot do anything unless the nakshatra has the power or the food or the fuel that it has to offer to the graha, so that the graha can perform in the way the nakshatra is actually asking it to do. In other terms, or in a simpler terms, a planet placed in a nakshatra is going to perform how the nakshatra is asking to perform it, rather than just merely looking at, the seventh lord is placed in the 12th house, or the seventh lord is placed in the sixth house, or seventh lord is placed in the eighth house, would spoil a marriage. And 99% of the times, you would see that despite the seventh lord is placed in the 12th house, or seventh lord is placed in the sixth or the eighth house, the person is doing very well in his marriage. However, you may still see a person who has the seventh lord in the seventh house, and is still having huge problems for him in the marriage. You would often see these things if you have at least seen 50 to 100 horoscopes. If you have just been seeing only your horoscope, it might look like, yes, everything looks fine, or either you don't understand anything. It could be either of these. And most times what happens is, just merely who would look at the positions and say, no, the seventh lord is exalted, or the or something is exalted, or something is debilitated, or something is in the own house, or the mula trikona is going to get good results. No, it doesn't work like that. None of the times the exalted planets, or the debilitated planets, or the mula trikona planets, as they look, have never given either a trouble or a prosperity just by merely being in exaltation, debilitation, mula trikona, or swakshetra. No, it doesn't happen like that. Okay, that's what I would want every one of you to be very clear about this at the first juncture. I'll just give you an example. Okay, just take a Libra sign. Okay, the Libra is the ascendant. Okay, Libra ascendant, you have the Mars, the seventh lord is the Mars. Okay, seventh lord placed in the seventh house of Libra may give more problems than the seventh lord placed in the 12th house for Libra, because the nakshatras that you have in the 12th house of Libra are different, and the nakshatras that you have in the seventh house of Libra are different. So similarly, you have a different ascendant, and then you have a different seventh house. So the nakshatra of the seventh house will play a lot of job, or will play a lot of trick when you have the results that come up for the relationships, for that matter, even the marriage. So a person who has the seventh house, seventh lords placed in the seventh house, usually people might think, oh yeah, he must be doing very great in his relationship. But no, most of the times when Mars is in the seventh house of the Libra sign, now do not think that because it's Mars, it's bad. No, it's not like that. Even if you have Saturn, you may face difficulties there. Okay, in the seventh house for the Libra ascendant. Even the Sun can have difficulties there, even if it is exalted. Okay, so it depends basically on the nakshatra. Okay, do not think that an exalted planet in a house is going to be beneficial. No, it wouldn't work like that. A lot of thing happens because of the nakshatra of the cusp of the seventh house, the seventh lord, and the seventh lord dispositor. That's what I'm going to teach from if it happens today or maybe tomorrow. I mean, in the next class, I would mean we would start off with nakshatras, and then would last come are the yogas, wherein we would talk about what if this planet is placed here along with another planet, or being aspected by another planet, because yoga would mean a union. That means when two planets get united, or there are a few yogas wherein the planet gets into a particular rasi. Like, let's suppose you have a hamsa yoga. A hamsa yoga is something wherein the Jupiter has to be in the kendras are 1, 4, 7, and 10. I mean, in the English we would call them quadrants. So the Jupiter has to be in quadrants, and the Jupiter has to be either in exaltation or in the own signs. That is either in the Pisces or in the Sagittarius or in the Cancer. These three are the signs, and it should either be in the first, fourth, seventh, 10th houses. So here in the yoga thing, which we call, we are not using any other planet. We're just using the Rasi and the planet. So these two are the elements of the yoga. So any yoga would need two things. Besides that, there are yogas between the planets. That also we will talk about. That's at the last. However, if the nakshatra would promise something, for sure it is going to deliver, because the nakshatra is the most powerful of all. Okay. As I said, the akasha is endless. Let's suppose if you have the people of the space who know space very well, or even just a common sense that the akasha is endless, or the space is endless, and whatever we have seen right now is not even 0.0000001% of the whole space that we know, even in our galaxy, and there are so many galaxies around. So, and there are possibilities these days that we know that there are multiverses, which Sanatana Dharma has been talking about for quite long. And because of this, that there is no boundaries for the space, there are no boundaries available for the space, wind becomes more powerful. And the nakshatras, therefore, would deliver results more strongly than the yogas that you would get to see in the horoscope. I'm not saying yogas are unimportant, but always have an understanding of how the nakshatra is. That is going to affect a lot of the results that you have from the horoscope. Great, as we said, Akasha. The Akasha is the yoga thing, and Jupiter that provides space. The signification or the karakatva that we have is Jupiter is the karaka for everything in this world. Okay, unless there is space, you cannot exist. Okay, or nothing can exist. So Jupiter overrules everything in this world. Then we have, that's why people would say if you have a good Jupiter, you have the wisdom to tackle your problems. So Jupiter can oversee a lot of problems, and most of the people who have bad Jupiter would be very troubled because they do not know what to do. Okay, these are generic statements. Okay, and again, telling you a good Jupiter would not mean an exalted Jupiter, And a bad Jupiter is not a debilitated Jupiter. No, even a debilitated Jupiter can be a very good Jupiter if you know how to use the Jupiter. We'll get to know most of them when we have the nakshatras happening and when we would be looking at examples. And then we have the Vayu, the nakshatra, the wind. Okay, so the Vayu is the strongest, as I keep saying. So the more the knowledge that we have about the nakshatra, the more accurate the results are going to be, and they'll be stunning. As most of the Telugu students that we have in the class are because of the nakshatras that they, they're very fascinated with the results that they get just merely by looking at the nakshatra of the D1 of anything. They would have a fair idea of what's happening with any of his 12 houses, and they can fairly predict without even looking into the divisional charts. However, if you look at the divisional charts, then you have a greater understanding of what the magnitude of the problem is, or what the magnitude of the yoga or the goodness is. So both things you can get from the divisional charts, or rather the divisional charts would be used as a confirmation of the thing that we get to see with the nakshatras of the D1. Am I very fast when I'm talking? You're able to follow, right? Or you have a very difficulty in understanding what I'm saying? Is the speed okay?
Not at all, sir. Not at all, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. Fine. So we are done with the basic understanding of what the 5 elements are and the 5 limbs are of the Panchanga. So do not ignore these things because our ancestors have always emphasized on writing the Panchanga first and then looking at the horoscope. So, and I would again repeat, do not think an Amavasya born is bad and a Paurnima born is very good. No, it doesn't work like that. An Amavasya birth can also be very good, and equally a Paurnima birth can also be very, very bad. It can be either way. Do not try to tag up the things with just a mere surface knowledge. Have a profound knowledge of what the Tithi would mean, which I would eventually explain with the Dagdha Rasis and things when we look at D9 and stuff, while we do the nakshatras. Then we have the better understanding of how these things have to be applied. So do not think a nakshatra is bad. In the Telugu community, I do not know much about the North Indian stuff, but even the South Indian people have a very different way of looking at the nakshatras. Somebody's moon nakshatra is Magha. Oh no, is a bad nakshatra. Somebody's moon nakshatra, I mean the nakshatra, the Janma nakshatra is Moola. No, it's too bad nakshatra. We will not get a bride or a groom from a Moola nakshatra. No, nothing works like that. A Uttara Bhadra nakshatra or a Revati nakshatra can be very bad, whereas a Moola nakshatra can be very, very good. It depends on how the other placements are. Just merely looking at the Tara Bala of the couple. Most of the marriages happen just looking at the Tara Bala. No, this is a Naidhana Tara. No, the Tara is like 7th star from the male or the female. No, it wouldn't work. Because it's a Naidhana Tara. From the girl, when we count the boy, you get 7 stars, so it's a Naidhana Tara. No, it's a bad marriage. It doesn't work like that. None of the marriages would work like that. Okay, keep this in mind. Do not somebody complained that it is breaking and breaking, not at all clear. Is it fine or no?
Not
Fine,
for
sir.
us.
Fine, sir.
It's clear, right? Okay.
Clear, sir.
Okay, maybe it's a problem from there, and their internet is
Maybe
not
her
stable.
network problem, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So I would just start with this weekday. So Vedic weekday is from the sunrise to the next sunrise. Have a look at this, and this can be used in 2 things. One is, as I said, because the Vedic weekday or the Vara is ruled by the Sun and Mars, who would rule the 10th house, or who are Karkas for the 10th house. on directional strength. So what would directional strength mean? If you have a problem, how to deal with it is what you will get from directional strength. So when you have the sun and the Mars on the fire thing, and you try to understand what I'm trying to tell here, is that when you look at the profession, have an understanding of both the Karana and also the Vara. Without looking these two things, don't jump into the D10 or jumping into, I don't know, people are using D60 DTs, I don't know what not. People are jumping into too many things. I mean, it's not that I have not done this before. Yes, I have done these mistakes before. So it took a long time for me to recover. I would say fall back as fast as possible into the basics, because the basics would work excellent than just depending, because D60 deities and things like that are at the very very soul level thing. They don't work on your physical things which are looking at like a profession, marriage, or any of the things of the material world would not come from there. They are very high level things which eventually you would learn. It's not that you can't learn, or you should not learn. No, you should learn. But when you know how to synchronize things basically and understand the base energy of the whole thing, I would encourage you to go into all the divisional charts. But stick to basics first. Understand the basics first, how base things are working, and then you move on to the higher level charts. Do not jump into D60 deities and things like that. They don't work. Okay. So the planet that lords the Vedic weekday is called the Vara Adhipati. Okay. For best results of physical strength, it should not be in watery signs. However, I have not put on any lagna thing here. Always use a lagna. Okay. If your lagna is different, then your physical strength is different. It's a common sense, right? So when you have both your lagna also affecting the Vara planet, like as I said, from the lagna, the Vara planet falls in the 6th or the 8th or the 12th house, and it also falls in the watery sign, then the person can be having problems of physical strength, or when he gets a disease, or gets hit by an accident or something, it takes a longer time for him to recover, because there is not enough what is that called, the recovery system very functional in his body, or he's bereft of the physical strength that can stop the disease thing in the body. Vara planet making connections with the 10th lord. This is important. When you see that the 10th lord makes connections with the Vara planet, okay, so that's when the native is curious to learn things. He would be able to go to the office, or his office thing is very good. Like as I said, the Stephen Hawking's example, wherein he was not able to move. He's in his wheelchair, but he has done a lot of experiments. He's been a scientist. He's one of the greatest. So his Vara planet is very good with respect to the 10th house. Okay, he may be not having enough physical strength, but his Vara planet is very good, very well connected with the 10th house. I do not have the horoscope of his. I'm just trying to cite you an example so that the understanding is clear. I'm just making an assumption that his Vara planet must be good with the 10th thing, 10th lord or the 10th house, or something is connected to his Vara planet, or at least the Vara planet is in trines to the 10th house. Even that can happen, or both. It's trines to the 10th house, or quadrants to the 10th house and 10th lord aspecting it or conjoining it. All that would actually account for when you look at how his profession would be. Just merely not see the 10th lord is in the 12th house, no, his profession is not good. 10th house is the 6th house, profession is not good. No, 10th lord is in the 8th house, no, profession is bad. No, it wouldn't work. 99.9 times of percent of the times you would fail. If you're successful, it's just luck by chance. It's not that you have made the right prediction. It's just luck by chance. Vara planet placed in Dustanas and watery signs. That's what I meant. Dustanas from the Lagna, okay, will make the person weak in physical strength. These can be checked only in the D1 chart, because these are the physical things of the body. So you must be knowing there are different divisional charts. So physical things are looked at in the D1. So anything that happens at the physical level, I mean, let God forbid anybody meets with an accident. So it would be displayed for sure on the D1 because you are going to suffer a bodily injury. So a bodily injury for sure, it should be visible in the D1. There is a problem with the body because you might be bedridden for a few days, for a few hours, or a few years, depending on how big the accident is. Okay, so that's D1. D9 would deal mostly with the relationships, especially with the marriage and also the fortune of the native. So some might think the fortune would start after 36 or things like that, but no, the future or the fortune of the person would always start right from the birth. So D9 would be a confirmatory chart of the D1 to confirm each of the event, but predominantly we would look at it from the marriage point of view. Okay, how is so far? Is it good, or you're finding it
Good, sir.
boring, and how is it?
Good, sir. Interesting.
Good, good,
Interesting, sir.
great. So all that I have told right now or talked about right now is available on our website. You can go here to the freevedicastro.com and just click on the study. And the first thing is I've put up is Panchanga. As we progress through the lectures, I'll add up more content because I'm just still developing it myself, the website. So what I would usually do is after the lecture is over, I would put the video as well here at the bottom so that anybody who has any doubts about what the lecture is covered about, he can always come back, and the recorded lecture would be available at the end of this page. Okay. Eventually after the call or maybe tomorrow or day after, when I get a time, I would do that. Good. So now that's the basic introduction of Panchanga, and you will still have a lot to deal with respect to Panchanga, especially on as we have talked about right now, especially on the we've talked about the Vara. On the Tithi also, Panchanga would play a very huge, crucial role. Sometimes what happens is that you know uh, everything looks very right in the chart if you just look at the chart, but if the Tithi is problematic, then you have divorce written on the cards, because Tithi plays a very, very important role in establishing relationships and sustaining or maintaining them, because a relationship uh, can be fastly made. A person can get into a relationship very fast, and also it can so happen that the relationship is also broken off as fast as he got into the relationship. So it can be both ways faster, or it can be very good. That would largely depend on the Tithi, because for every Tithi there are certain Dagdha Rashis which we call, and maybe when we talk about the D9 I would educate you more on the Dagdha Rashis. We have each Tithi has a Dagdha Rashi or two Dagdha Rashis, or sometimes even four Dagdha Rashis. Dagdha means burnt, something that is burnt into ashes. So when the seventh house gets burnt or the seventh lord gets burnt, these things are gonna influence the relationships very much at the base level. So even if there are very good yogas in the chart that would show that the relationship would sustain, but if the base level is very bad, when the Tithi or the Dagdha Rashi due to the Tithi is actually negatively influencing the chart, or the seventh house rather, then it is more likely that there is a bad thing that's going to come up, which you were not expecting. Even that we will talk about when we get more into the classes. So the objective is we'll start with nakshatras, and then we will move. While the nakshatras are being covered, there will be examples maybe after the fourth or fifth class. Till that time, it would look like a lot of a boring lecture. My request to all of you is be a little patient, and have an understanding of this, because it's not going to come off pretty easily over once if you listen. No, they're not going to sit in your brains not that fast. They're going to take some time. So listen to the lectures over and over, again and again, so that you don't miss these points. There would be a lot of things that when you read it again or hear it again, a lot of things might strike. Oh yes, that's how it would look like. Okay.